Hello, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, depending on what time of day it is for you. Hey, Steph.
Hey everyone.
This is Banner and Backbone. I'm Nick Perro, joined by my good friend and colleague Stephanie Wilson from Freedom Over Fascism, and we'll soon be joined by our friends Tara Devlin from Terror Buster and Political Voices Network, as well as Christopher Goldsmith from On Offense Find Out podcast and the creator of what we are doing here today, which is our anti fascist book club. Welcome, everyone. We are here for I guess, book three, episode five, uh, where we are going to be going in on Strongmen by Ruth Ben Ghiat again. We are nearing the end of our Strongmen discussion. I'll show my book for anyone. Advertise the book off. Please go get your own copy of this book. Do not order it on Amazon. Order it on a thrift book or a secondhand store, or get it from your local libraries. Make sure they have their own copies. But welcome to the Anti-Fascist Book Club, y'all. I'm Nick Perro, joined by my friend Stephanie Wilson. Steph, how are you today?
I am doing well, thank you. I thought that today's um, chapters were really quite timely because we get to talk about virility / masculinity and the grift, and it seemed like this section was written exactly for these times when it's um it's a pattern.
It is. It is. It's a bad pattern, too.
It's a terrible pattern. I've just found, though, that the things about making sure that the strongman has all the sexual victims that he needs at any given time, I found that
Mm-hmm.
to be
Very
really
revealing.
revealing and disgusting, um and just way too close to what's going on with the Epstein files and all the people that Trump has victimized over time.
Yeah. So before we go too far into this discussion, because obviously perfect timing with everything that's going on in the world right now, is welcome to the Anti-Fascist Book Club. Let's give a quick, small overview of what it is and what it isn't. So first off, if you are able to scan that QR code in the top corner over there, in the top left-hand corner, that's for the Veterans Fighting Fascism Anti-Fascist Book Club guide. And that'll give you all the really good info and details on what the book club is and what it really isn't, and what the objectives of the book club are, and what the overall goals. And what it is a place for knowledge. We're here virtually to help spread some knowledge and go through, in a virtual sense, the Strong Men and other books throughout the series, which are on the VFF reading list. Um, and it's a tool to give others the ability to then use this knowledge either for their own book clubs at home and in person, which is what we advocate for. Is, if you can, go make your own in-person book club at a library, and get the tools and go through the creator guide and start setting up your own book club, because you'll find you already know some of this information through these discussions, and you can reference these as good starting points for your team to learn from. And then more people get the knowledge. So the whole point of this is to spread knowledge, spread awareness, and give everybody the tools to recognize what fascism is and what anti-fascism is. Both, because you need to know what both are. You need to know what fascism is and what anti-fascism is, and what anti-fascism isn't, which is, we're not a death cult. We are not terrorists or villains. We're just folks who want to learn and share and give information and have equity and equality across the board and shared dignity and values. So welcome, because these chapters are a lot with what's going on. So we're talking today specifically around chapters 6, 7, and 8, which are dealing with corruption, violence, and virility. Um, and resilience in a lot of ways. But we're going through like our show title said was around virility is one of the big ones, and with the Epstein files and the things that have been going on there, I think that's a really important topic to go into for what has happened and what hasn't happened, and how that ties in. Because this ties into a theme around strong men or authoritarian warlords through time immemorial, because we all know like there's a statistically significant amount of people in the world who are related to Genghis Khan, the individual. Like that's part of the virility thing is he took all the concubines and raped as many people as he could to spread his seed, and that's sort of this whole thing we see on um, at least on the billionaire side nowadays, and that essence of what they think of virility, like Elon Musk um, has a set of concubines basically, and has reared a bunch of children with multiple different women and has them in like compounds for safety. Like,
Because that's not cult like at all.
yeah, that's not cult like or weird at all. And that doesn't sound like this like fake virility thing or this high like idea of like low T men or high T men or alpha and beta males. Like, it's that old saying of like if you're smart you don't go around telling people if you're a genius you don't go around telling people you're a genius, you just they know you are by your actions and what you're doing. um Whereas like these folks go around saying I'm alpha male, I'm high T, or you're low T, you're a beta cuck, or whatever bullshit they want to like spew to make you feel effeminate, because like their idea of anti-masculinity and anti-virility is men who are not violent and not overly aggressive.
Well, it's so deeply misogynistic.
Yeah.
And at core, that's that's the basis for a lot of what's going on, as well as for a lot of the anti-LGBTQ plus stuff. Is that this idea that women are lesser, that are weak, that are uh, more or less subhuman, except as breeders, um, is prevalent. It's prevalent
Yeah.
right now, and
Yeah.
and I think that's why we see a lot of people wanting to take women's rights away, because as who was it who said your Nick Fuentes? I
Oh,
don't remember.
Nick
Your body,
Fuentes
my
said
choice.
yeah. Yeah, Nick Fuentes said that. And he got pepper sprayed for it. And he got into trouble. Like he under by the end of saying that phrase, he understood that his body was somebody else's choice at that point. So he didn't really learn because he's still out there spewing the same nonsense, but he got a taste of what it feels like to have the words "your body, my choice" thrown right back at him, because his freedoms to move around without harassment or without verbal um, assault, and that it's okay to yell and scream at people as long as you're not like causing violence. So people could be outside Nick Fuentes' home with a bullhorn calling him an idiot and a Nazi and a beta male all the time. And he would lose the choice to his body and his autonomy in some ways. He sort of just found that out a little bit. And I'm okay with that, because your body is your choice, not my choice. Like,
That's right.
and that's the whole Yeah, that's the whole gambit for this patriarchy system that is Christofascism, is technofascism in a lot of ways. It's all built on these same cult mythologies that are just prevalent in the US in general. A country founded on cults. I don't think people
The,
like to remember or talk about that. Like the Masons are a cult. The Freemasons is a cult.
well, the Pilgrims
Yeah.
were basically, I mean, they were a separatist cult that couldn't exist in England anymore because
Hmm.
they were kicked out because they were too, weird and, well, not weird, but they were like undermining whatever uh the British, uh I mean, the Anglican Church wanted it to be. So they, kind of got out of there, went to the Netherlands, came to the United States, and then, treated everybody else like subhuman. So
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I don't think I was watching, I don't remember what I was watching. We're talking about, this morning, Ben Witt is the idea of foundational myths
Mm.
is,
Yeah.
or identity is a lot of times it's constructed. I mean, that's what I have studied, and there are always deeper truths that folks don't want to acknowledge because it goes against what they think that their identity is,
Yeah.
but that is always lurking everywhere because people are human. But
And no, go ahead. Go ahead.
uh, yeah, so the idea that, for example, uh, our I'm just going to go back to Davos right now. So Mark Carney comes out and says this whole order, this whole rules-based international order is broken, it's ruptured, it's not a transition. And then Trump comes on and can't tell the difference between Greenland and Iceland, and um, can't remember that he's president, and all of those things. And for some, I think it is the idea that this is where we are as a country, uh, is, some people think of it as humiliating. I think it's more like grief that, those of us on here have been talking about this for a really long time, that our identity myths are faulty, that it's about Christofascism and uh, the patriarchy, and that America was never the America we wanted it to be, but always kind of had these ideals in the background, but never even came close to achieving them. And I think that this might be a moment where people are really getting the fact that what happens here um, really changes the global balance of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And I think you make a really key point on the identity and the founding myth and the mythologized start to our own country and what our founders are and who they are and how we have to uphold them, and like laud their every action without ever questioning any of their flaws. It's not bad to question flaws. Like I question my own flaws all the time. It's what helps me grow. It's what helps us move forward and progress. And that's on purpose. Those founding myths are like that on purpose, so that we don't, so that it certain things don't progress and certain things are inherent. And I think one of the things we do need to talk about is the virility myth of America. And
Well,
we have been doing this white virility myth, specifically since the Confederacy, when we had slave rape pens and slave like banking systems built around uh, the rape of slave women and making children, and how that transitioned from being black centric because it was a power dynamic of slave owner to slave to being what we see now in things like the Epstein files, where I think that's a continuation of the same style of system and network. Is it's just transition because it's the same ownership mentality, but it's built on this virility myth that the it is our or manifest destiny is what we wrote it down as, was
And the
we are
Marlboro Man, yeah,
inherently do what we can conquer, so we're just going to take this. And
exactly.
that is very patriarchy, is very rape culture, is what a lot of us would see that as nowadays. That's a modern um I'll unmute Tara here.
Hey.
That's the modern like corollary to it, is rape culture. Um, is
It's
but I
entitlement. It's
it's
the
entitlement, but I think we have to keep it on that mindset. Like I'm trying to tie things back in a way that's truly American, that will wake Americans up. Is this is what, like, what's going on door to door in Minnesota, what's going on with the Epstein trafficking and the rape of these children, is this is old Confederacy. This is the Confederacy. This is what influenced Nazism. This is what created the KKK and then helped influence the Nazis, because the Nazis took their cues from the Confederates, from the KKK, and then made it worse. And it's a realization of that cycle. And Wajahat Ali is really right about it. Is you have to we have to confront the sin of white supremacy in this country and the myth of white supremacy in this country. And part of that is tying these policies back to their root and not just saying, yeah, you were a Nazi. Nazis were fucking terrible. And the Confederates were just as bad, if not worse.
well,
Like
it's not
in
even
the
just the
long run.
Confederates. If you bring it back, first of all, it wasn't just the Confederates who owned other people.
Yeah.
You know, it was all 13 colonies at the beginning, and then it moved to the South. But also the whole idea that white people could come to this continent and own all the land and kill all the people already here. And we don't know what essentially raping the land, and probably most of the people they came into contact with as well. It's so deep that we don't even recognize it, and it keeps being reified so there was first just the idea of colonizing the land, and then there was the enslavement of people, and then there was failed Reconstruction and Jim Crow, and but then there was pop culture that really strengthened it, and Birth of a Nation and Gone with the Wind. And then Westerns. What were Westerns? What is this idea of the Western cowboy? It's the masculine white man conquering the West, which is historically inaccurate, obviously, because
Yeah.
cowboys were mostly Black and poor.
Yeah.
But there's a whole system where not every generation, every so often, these kinds of things are strengthened by the pop culture that continues to feed it, like the Marlboro Man, even, right? That's a freaking commercial, but
Well, who died of lung cancer, by the way.
right, that it's like, this is the American man. And hi, Chris. And so over and over and over and over and over, we reinforce it, and never have we held people accountable for any of those crimes. I just wrote about that this weekend, is that, it's not just that we didn't hold, Bush accountable for the Iraq War. We didn't hold Nixon accountable for Watergate. We didn't hold, as we go back, there's nobody we held accountable for their crimes.
It's the powerful, though, right? Isn't it? Because even at the time when Nixon was pardoned, there was an outcry about it. The people were unhappy, and but nothing ever happens. Nothing ever comes of it. So
right, and it just paves the way for the next thing. Well,
exactly.
Pardon Nixon, so that made it okay, and so that made the more powerful. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and hey, Chris, welcome. It's good to have you. And we also don't. We always gloss over, or a lot of times we gloss over the expansion westward in the U.S. and the devastation, like you were talking about, is the raping and pillaging of the land. Is we created a white nationalist church that went across the nation, murdering and genociding the Native Americans in this myth of virility. Like, and I'm talking about Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith went across from Vermont, across the nation out to, and eventually they settled in Utah, was founding the Mormon church along the way, was this golden tablet myth, and from a con artist and a fraudster, and who went out with this virility of, I'm going to rape a bunch of kids and take other people's wives and rape them and make them my own and claim them. And then I'm going to expand west. But along the way, we're going to then kill as many native people as we can in the process to cleanse the land for the coming of white Jesus. And
they also killed a lot of white people so that they could pin it on the Native Americans. There was a really good TV show on Netflix called, I can't remember what it was called.
I know what you're talking about.
It was fantastic. It was basically about.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, maybe someone can look it up. About the story of how, at that point, it wasn't Joseph Smith. It was the next guy, and where they did all these massacres so that they could pin it on the Native Americans, so that then they can go kill more Native Americans. But it wasn't just the Mormons, man. It was the U.S. Army. What were they going to do with all of those soldiers after the Civil War? They had to do something with them, and it's a problem after every war. Was, what do you do with the people who are soldiers, the veterans? We talk about that a lot, and throughout history, veterans have been extremely poorly treated. But like, you have this bulk of men who have been fighting. So what do? You need to like get them out of the population centers and fighting someone else, and conquering somewhere else. So I think that that's a big part of it as well.
Right. It's called American Primeval. That's
so good. Yeah, so good.
Chris, thoughts on this as you come on in?
Yeah. So I wish that I was here for the first 15 minutes. This is one of the chapters that I have all of my bookmarks in because I've written about it. I think that's why I did that. But yeah, I agree that Netflix series is really compelling, educational. I want to encourage folks to look into American Primeval. If you've got Netflix, I think you should be able to watch it anytime. And what this looks like on the global stage right now, as Ruth Ben-Ghiat so aptly puts a photo of the shirtless Putin. Our version of that is AI generated.
Yes.
Like, the masculinity of the Trump administration is now entirely mimetic. It doesn't have any connection to reality.
Right.
The masculine stereotypes that they're seeking to associate themselves with are mythical. And I think that is unique in the arc of the history that Ruth Ben-Ghiat lays out in in strongmen, but it is not unique in the idea of having a media forward way of ruling. Berlusconi of Italy, owned all of these TV stations, right? It was basically like he owned a Fox News empire as he was coming into power. And Trump has benefited from that, through allies in the media, now through owning his own social media company, where they've created a myth where, to be honest, I don't know that these Trump supporters honestly believe that Donald Trump is like not a stereotypically masculine man. He proved his unwillingness to fight when he had the chance during the draft. He got his deferments.
Yeah, his feet hurt.
He was
His little
he has
feeties hurt.
always, his version of masculinity has always been like the masculinity of a rapist. It is about power and domination.
That's right.
It is not about any of the positive aspects of masculinity. And what I think is most dangerous is that we have a generation of young boys and men who have seen him as the most present masculine presence in the United States over the last 10 years. And it is shaping a generation's conception of what is acceptable and what is not.
Yeah, right. And I mean, watching these, there's no consequence for whatever crimes and bad behavior. There just never seems to be any consequences for him. Even like bringing back the R word on, like all these disgusting things that a kid would get into detention for. But here's the leader, of the so-called free world, just shitting on everything that is decent. And I don't know, it's very damaging, of course. How do you discipline children? That's all we heard during the Bill Clinton years. What about the children, right? That's all these effing Republicans would talk about. How can I explain to my children about a BJ, what a BJ is, It's like, how do you explain everything now? Everything, from, just deplorable behavior to
Stephanie and Tara, I want to hear from you, because I can't even imagine this, but we know from studies, from public reporting, from magazine features, that there is an impact on young men who, particularly but not exclusively white young men, who have driven far right, and the response of women has been to go young women, girls, has been to go to the left because they don't want to be victimized. And the cruelty that they are experiencing in their daily lives is shaping their reality. What do you two see happening in the future as this generation, whether it's Z or Alpha, ages? Like, do you see these young women and girls influencing the men who've gone far right, or like
I would hope so.
Where does this go?
I just hope that the people's mothers, these men have mothers, and I don't think there could be anything more disappointing to a mother to see their son raised as and become a fascist. That would be the most disappointing, I think.
But I'm not sure that they can control that.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a massive bifurcation. So these boys, young men, get pulled into this internet rabbit hole, mostly through like bodybuilding and stuff like that. And then come out fascist on the other side. You've got girls who are both feeling like they need to be more empowered to fight that, but they're also falling victim to the Instagram, like the Instagramification of everything, where they are made to feel less than because they don't look Instagram like, you know,
Yeah.
the influencers. There's a lot of studies about
Right.
anorexia and eating disorders around this. And I, I don't, I think there are probably lots and lots and lots of kids that get forgotten that are being taught well and right and are sensitive and are thoughtful. And the boys who go down the rabbit hole are, you know, we're focusing on them because they create a lot of evil and bad stuff. I'm hoping that it's the kids like, you know, my kid, my nieces, my nephews who are good, thoughtful, egalitarian, sensitive people that actually are the majority and that will, you know, stand up as long as their future isn't completely curtailed by what's going on now, which is a big fear as well. So,
well, I think there has to be, we will have to see consequences for something to change, and this is what I hope, that the complete incivility, the everything, the deplorable, everything, the depravity of what we're watching. I think that I hope that people are hitting bottom with the cruelty, and it will come back to bite them in the ass. I mean, you just saw that. You talk about these toxic masculine assholes like Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, Nick Fuentes. I'm sure you saw that video of them in the car or in the limo. They were going to some club and they were singing a song, Hitler N-word or whatever. I don't know. It's a Kanye West song apparently, and they're doing the Zig Heil salute and all that. Like, and every single one of these assholes wouldn't fare well in a fascist state. You know, Tristan Tate and Andrew Tate are mixed race. So it's just so baffling to me how they think that they will escape the consequences when if fascism really comes knocking on their door too. They think that they're gonna somehow run. It's like like the Jewish group that supported the early supporters of Hitler. They didn't fare well either when it came down to it. So I mean, the Nazis would consider these people non-Aryans. They would in the very least end up in a camp. And they would have no power. But that's what's so insidious and disgusting about what we're witnessing too. It's the lack of historical any kind of historical knowledge too. It's like it's and their brand of fascism. It does seem that it is the in group and the out groups are only based on loyalty to the dear leader, and more than just and also race, of course, too.
Yeah, skin color.
Yeah. But if you're one of them, they use them, if you're like a Nick Fuentes who's Mexican, right? And also probably gay and self-loathing.
A lot of them are gay.
Oh yeah. Especially Andrew Tate. They're all, I mean, it's just like an overcompensating for all of it. But, I don't know. They think that, they're going to escape in the long run. But, it's just complete toxic masculinity. And it's also just toxic to the culture. So I don't know if I just have to wonder how much longer we're going to take it. And it's tied too with these billionaires who are platforming it as well. So there's no gatekeepers anymore. There's no decency. And that's a whole other story that's tied into, of course, what we're talking about with the strongmen and that are who gives these people power. It's the power of concentrated wealth. And a lot of these, like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel doesn't get as much of a spotlight or as much attention as I think he needs, of course, especially because he's somebody who says that he hates democracy. Democracy is no longer a viable, synonymous or compatible with freedom. These are his words. And he funded the vice president of the United States. So, and they're all a bunch. I mean, it's really, really a horrible time. So, yeah.
I think to focus my question more is
Mhm.
what I'm wondering is, what do you think that these young women and girls who are aging into high school and aging into college, what do you see the arc of their lives being? It seems clear, and you've both said it, that these young girls and women are feeling it necessary to be more empowered. We have seen that the erasure of DEI at universities has disproportionately negatively affected young white men more than anyone, right? Do you see in the near future these young women and girls making a concerted effort to organize against this kind of toxic masculinity, this fascist version of virility on college campuses in high schools?
It just
So
depends.
I
Yeah.
have an 18-year-old niece and a 14-year-old niece and an 18-year-old son and an 18-year-old and 19-year-old nephews. So like my family is all this age, the kids. And I think part of it depends on where they grew up and to what extent are they accepting of LGBTQ plus people? To what extent are they inclusive in their thinking? To what extent are they already socially active? My nieces live in Portland, Maine now, where ICE has just gotten, and they go to the protests, and and so I think depending on where you grew up, and I think it might be hyper local, like one high school in a red state, it may be that the toxically masculine boys just hold a lot of power. So are those girls going to take a while to come into their own? Maybe, probably. Does it matter if they're going to go to college or not? Is it the non-college educated, the people who are going to, you go, pretty much when you go to college, you get to like try to figure out who you are, right? And, but what do you miss if you don't go to college? And also college is generally where more people who are different concentrate.
Yes.
So that's why they're considered liberal bastions, right? Because you get to learn about places other than what you know. You get to meet people other than the ones that you went to high school with. You get to, meet people of different colors or religions or sexual orientations or genders that you've never met. So like proximity breeds inclusivity, I think. I just feel like America is way too freaking big to be able to have one answer to that question.
Well, I think it's also, this is why Republicans attack education as well. We have let young people come out of college now as indentured servants to banks, not as free people ready to get their lives started. And that's just disgraceful. So if we had, education up until whatever, just like they have in every other country where we invest in the youth and everyone can get an education if they choose, because that's what a free and civilized society would do. I think that there would be more opportunity for people to meet other people. And I, as somebody who went to school, and went to, grad school and everything. And it really is true that you do read things that you might not have read, or it opens your mind in a lot of ways to things that you didn't even know you didn't know. So it's, I think, beneficial, of course, but of course, because of the income disparity and upward immobility in this country now, people don't get out much either. If you're living in these red states, these poorly run red states, where they have cut everything, they've cut education, and then of course they're getting a steady diet of fake Fox News, telling them to hate people, and that the elites, the culture, the liberal elites in their fancy degrees don't know what they're doing, and blaming them for the lives that they lead, instead of keep voting for these effing Republicans that do nothing for them but divide them and cut their lifelines. And so I mean, we have our work cut out for us, and I think that what we're doing here is really important. And because we connect the dots on it, we need to get money out of politics. We need to make sure that everybody who wants an education can get one without becoming an indentured servant to a bank, and on and on. We have to challenge and fix the upward immobility. This country used to be the most upwardly mobile. Only when I was born, we had the slightest income gap between rich and poor. Now we have the widest in all of the industrialized world, because of government policy, because of Republican conservative policies. And
So
Yeah.
with
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, in some blue states, though, this
Mhm.
is again the division, right? Like Massachusetts has free community college for anybody who wants
Yeah.
it.
Right.
And at the same time, we have a gazillion, like I'm dealing with the whole private school. My kid got into the school of his dreams. We thought we would get a huge amount of financial aid. We got less. And now we're trying to navigate, like, okay, now what do we do?
Right.
And I think that, there's the stratum, I mean, I guess elite, where college is assumed, and and everything in childhood leads up to college, and whether they go to a state school, I don't think it matters where you go to undergraduate. You get a degree, you get a degree, but there's a lot of people for whom that is not the trajectory. It's not the assumed trajectory. I have a friend even who grew up in Massachusetts who said her parents didn't want her to go to college because, I don't know, she's certainly smart enough, and
what did they want her to do?
They don't want her to get married and have babies.
Oh, I see.
So I think it's variable,
So
Right.
how do we this is, I guess, a broad question for all of us. Is I know Chris and myself both have a lot of masculinity discussions. One of our main focuses is the Find Out podcast is a masculinity show. Like, they are discussing what it and showing what it looks like to be intelligently masculine when they come on their shows, whether that's the focus of their series or not. I do my own intelligent masculinity series specifically around that, so that it's like it is a highlight and focus. How do we see ourselves using like this tool that we have as Substack, plus all the other like channels that we're all building on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitter, or not Twitter, on Twitch, on other platforms that are not Nazi platforms? Because I don't subscribe to using X. I don't.
No, it's a
like,
it's a cesspool.
At this point, you can't use X. Like, it's a cesspool.
They don't even let me in anymore. I can't even get a lurking account.
No,
But like,
what?
how do we? Is this the point where we can
Congrats.
use? Because we've talked about things like colleges a lot. Like, that's one of the main focuses, is how do we influence folks on college? I know college campuses now have a lot of folks like the Heritage Foundation doing their talks and their clubs. How do we get groups like Centered America to get the ability, because they're a nationally recognized 501c4 organization that's pro dignity, pro values, and is able to break, and they're young. Like the two young men who founded that are in college themselves. Sherrod's 19. Like
Wow.
he's the prime example of what a true intelligent young man could look like. Is that the way forward, is using and expanding on our friends like that to be able to do college clubs, to be able to do high school leadership training courses, to be able to open up new spaces for boys, specifically at first, but are inclusive for others to be a part of, but are geared towards boys so that they know that they're also important. Because part of it was, I think, and I'm not saying this to be, this might be a divisive comment, is we swung really far on the pendulum towards advocating for girls, that we intentionally left boys out. And that has come back to bite us in the ass in ways, because by the time I was going to high school, all of the focus was on ensuring that girls could get into schools too. And I'm glad that was the focus. That hurt some men who don't have the ego to go, oh, I should have tried harder. But then it led to what we now see as this full incel culture. It grew into the incel culture of this one slight is now my whole personality. And because we left that void of knowledge, we don't have these pro-centrist or pro-central morality clubs like Centered America. Could be a central morality club for kids to give their information, like feel and learn and be accepted without the stigma of the past of like, we're not trying to isolate one gender anymore. Like we saw that bifurcating our approach of we have to do separate approaches or parallel tracks for boys and girls. Why don't we just do one? Like, why don't we just help all of us and remind boys that they're important too, and help them break out of that cycle? Because the big thing is like, how do you see the masculinity talks and the discussions and the spheres that we're working on countering or being a separate influence to help grow out of this fascist fragile masculinity?
Well, I mean, I think that it's just that, you know, girls had been left behind for so long. It was a measure. Anytime we try to catch up, then the Republicans, the conservatives turn like genuine concern about that into a culture war script that, you know, now we see it, of course, with woke and DEI and everything there, where they're actually out there soliciting for white men who they have been discriminated against, that they're going to take Department of Justice cases. If you are a white man, you know, they're going to fight for you, as if white men are not still running everything, you know. But anyway, and yeah, it's just like what you're saying is of course, you know, true, but it's also it's kind of reminding me though of what like John Roberts said, well, just don't be racist, you know what I mean? Like that's racism is over, and how we fix racism is just don't be racist. Well, I mean, okay.
It started with Reagan, the colorblind society.
We wish, right? But the fact is, you know, it's not, and that's what we found out with affirmative action, because there was a feeling at the time. It was sincere, and it was, you know, trying to fix the racial divide in the country, thinking that if we only got to know each other, that's what busing was about and whatnot, then we would have a less racist society. But then what we learned from that was that it was more than just getting to know each other. It was the laws that were already in place. There are laws against people of color in this country, and they have to be addressed as well. So like the GI Bill had carve outs that didn't, like my father and my uncles could go buy a house and go to college, but that wasn't available to soldiers who happen to have darker pigment, which is disgusting. They could get into public housing, but they couldn't buy their own homes. It's disgusting, right? And that's really why we have education funded by property taxes, which is another racist policy. That's a throwback too, to keeping people in their place. We should just have education policies that fund. There should be no good schools or bad schools. There should be great. Everything should be great school, right? It shouldn't depend on where you live, what neighborhood you live in. But that's how we divide. So I don't know. I mean, this is a very big problem on top of all the other problems. But it's, as you see, that I don't see anything wrong with like trying to help people, of course, whereas the conservatives stand in the way all the time because they want us at each other's throats. So I think that the problem really has to be, I mean, we would have all these things if we got money out of politics and we also, elected people who believed in democracy and believed in making a more perfect union. You know what I mean? Like FDR said, try something. If it doesn't work, try something else, but that's, paraphrasing, but at least you're trying, you're trying to move forward with a goal. Whereas I think that, we have a whole bunch of people in this country in the Republican Party that are deliberately holding us back and dragging us backwards. So anyway,
Chris, thoughts
talking
on
too
that?
much.
I'm wondering, how what we're reading about plays into what's happening in Minnesota right now with ICE, and how the projection of physical strength and authority that we see is, I think, going beyond what even MAGA will accept. We saw, I just saw some data on the way that people are talking about the murder of Renee Nicole Good. Even on the Republican side, it seems to be breaking through that like this was an uncalled for murder. The arrest yesterday, I think it was yesterday, of the 5-year-old.
Oh God.
Wearing like a hat with ears on it, right? Like shows that this is a baby. These types of images where Stephen Miller and Trump wanted to project strength have gone too far. And do you guys think that I am projecting my own beliefs here when I'm saying that even for MAGA it's gone too far, or do you think that it is resonating with that side?
I think for some it is.
Yeah,
I think for some it is. And I think that the Minnesota people, who are, by the way, striking today, have been really smart and well organized about how they defend against ICE. They're throwing water balloons. They're like they're using the ridicule part of refuse whatever it is, refuse something, ridicule.
Don't. Okay.
And so I think that is also getting through, that these ICE people are throwing chemical weapons at unarmed people who are throwing water balloons. But there's still so much of a bifurcation in the information, not economy, but in what information people get. I have a cousin in Tennessee, and I was on her Facebook page, and there were some of her friends who are like, oh, well, they're just arresting all the very big criminals and they haven't done anything wrong, and they haven't murdered anybody, and they've, blah, blah, blah. And other people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like open your eyes and see. And I think even in a place like Tennessee,
that's good.
It's not all one way or the other.
Right.
So, Chris, I want your thoughts a little bit on this, building on this, because was the conversation around Don Lemon for a little while. And, him possibly being indicted, them going after him, using him as an example, which wouldn't surprise me if they tried to.
I hope
Because
they do it.
the,
Really,
the
do it.
administration hates Don Lemon, and he's a black dude. He's
And he's
gay.
gay.
He's a black
And he's
dude,
gay. Yeah.
and he won't shut up. And he's doing all the right things. So, what are your thoughts on like that and this like brutality that they're trying to push as policy, and like what Stephanie or and Tara were saying about that, how organized it is on their response. Like, how do you see that unfolding possibly in other places around the country, to expand this peaceful resistance?
Yeah, so it feels to me, I know this is not true, but it feels to me like the Trump administration went to Task Force Butler's website and looked at the way that we have been recommending prosecuting hate groups and using the KKK Act, which is rarely used, but is a legitimate tool. The Pam Bondi's memo that followed the executive order that named Antifa as a terrorist group, that was followed by National Security Presidential Memorandum 7 that like gave a little more teeth to the executive order. All of these things on a continuum down to like the specific U.S. codes, the laws, the federal laws that are named, are things that I have been writing about for now 5 years on like, this is how you prosecute hate groups. And those are the things that are getting levied against Don Lemon. There is part of the KKK Act, the anti-KKK Act, is it makes it illegal to drive on an interstate highway with a mask as part of conspiracy to take away someone's civil rights. I believe that a future administration should look at the precedent of charging protesters who may or may not have crossed the line with like going into a church. I think that was stupid. They shouldn't have done it. If they get prosecuted, sucks for them. Like they shouldn't have made themselves vulnerable targets.
Should Don Lemon be prosecuted for that because he went in as a journalist and not a protester?
I know, but I hope they do.
Yes, I do too. I kind of hope they do too.
Yeah, because every time, I mean, Don Lemon is a privileged dude. He's not a poor guy.
Yeah,
right. Like he has a huge platform. He has money. He has a way to defend himself. He's not going to end up in a gulag.
Yes.
Yeah.
But with the Trump administration going to extremes, our democracy still does exist. The Constitution still does exist. Jurisprudence, like all of these things, do still exist. They are creating room for the next non-fascist administration to start clearing house. Like the use of the KKK Act, should there be any successful prosecutions at all, I think would set precedent for prosecuting all of ICE with the KKK Act. I mean, all those motherfuckers are hopping onto interstate highways with masks over their face for the express purpose of taking away or violating people's civil rights. So fuck it. Go ahead, Trump administration. Prosecute people for using the KKK Act, because in 4 fucking years, we might potentially have thousands of ICE agents who they're not immune, no matter what JD Vance says. Like, unless a pardon is specific enough to say, like, we are pardoning everyone from ICE for violating the KKK Act, like a blanket pardon in theory is not going to do it. So I say, fuck it. Go ahead. Prosecute Don Lemon and everybody else with all the ridiculous things you want to do, because A, it's going to get people more fucking upset, and B, that level of anger that they're building among the civilian populace is going to give the next administration the political capital that they need to start locking these motherfuckers up.
Yes. Yep.
After they've been prosecuted successfully in a court of law, according to the letter of the law. right? We're not talking
We're
about
not talking
locking
about
up our
adopting
enemies
them.
just because they've committed political crimes, as Donald Trump tweeted this morning. We're talking about people who have been locking up kids, who've been violating the Fourth Amendment by breaking down doors because they say, oh,
Right.
we no longer need a judge to sign our warrant, right? So, yeah, I
It's
want them to keep
unbelievable.
pushing because
Yeah, and there, of course, I'm sure you probably saw this Department of Homeland Security tweet where they posted a picture, a doctored image of someone. They darkened her skin. Nakima Levy. She's who? Oh, let me see.
She's a
Nakima
she's a
Levy Armstrong. What is she from?
she's from Minneapolis, and she is they were our friends Dana Dubois and Lawrence Winterman were talking about this morning on their show with Matt McNeil. I think that's his name. I hope I'm saying it right. And he's out of Minneapolis, and she is like a community leader there. She's not
Right.
just somebody. She's not just some random protester. She's a community leader and she has a case for he thinks for defamation because what
It's
they
unreal.
made her into was a defamatory image and are trying to slander her name and her reputation
Right.
as this awful, which is a slogan word, dog whistle for the right wing nowadays, a awful
Right.
woman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's what she is in their minds. And it's
Yeah.
defamatory. And I think that's a really good point is we need to talk. We can prosecute in real time. I keep bringing this up to folks is fucking prosecute these people in real time for state level crimes too. And stop waiting
Right.
because
That's
you don't
true.
have to have a Nuremberg. You can just continuously prosecute them because at some point they'll stop.
Right.
Like at some point, after enough of them have gone to jail for state level crimes, they'll either stop or they'll escalate in a way that is really dangerous.
Right.
And so
Right.
we're also hitting right at our hour mark here. I want to respect everybody's time. We're going to come back next week and continue our discussion into strongmen and pieces around it. And today was a lot about the virility side and these mythos around this, which has led to violence. And so I want to give everybody a chance here now to close out the show and sell yourself a little bit, where people can find you, how they can support your work. We'll start with Chris here for On Offense. And obviously Chris is also a ton of other things, but he is the founder of the Veterans Fighting Fascism and Task Force Butler and the creator of the Anti-Fascist Book Club tool. And I'm really thankful that Chris is joining us all the time and has become a friend through this because I've learned a ton. And make sure to follow Chris and support his work. So Chris, please sell yourself and how folks can support you.
Thanks. And just because sarcasm doesn't always go through with the comments, I can't tell if people are joking or not. So let me just say for the record, I am not someone who stormed the church. I don't storm things. I do this, computers and shit, right?
Storm your mind.
So just so everyone knows, I'm not someone
storming
who does,
the castle.
Yeah, I'm not storming anything, though. I do look like a lot of people who do storm things. So On Offense is my Substack. It is now also my podcast. It was born January 20th of last year, so we just passed the 1-year anniversary. And I want to thank folks who've been following, who've been supporting, sharing, especially paid subscribers. You are allowing me to do this stuff full time. I am still running my nonprofits, Task Force Butler Institute and Veterans Fighting Fascism. If you want to learn how to gather intelligence on hate groups or ICE, because they act and look the same nowadays, go to taskforcebutler.org, look for our community response guide and our street teams guide. That's for the entry level and the intermediate level street activists. You don't need any experience to do this. Just you can print out a couple copies. The PDF is available on our website for free. If you want to start your own anti-fascist book club, I want to encourage you to try and do in-person stuff. You go to veteransfightingfascism.org. Basically, the whole website is dedicated to teaching people how to create an anti-fascist book club. All of the guides that you need to get started are available for free on that website. I want to thank everybody for tuning in week after week. This is a lot of fun. It's a good way to end each week. And I'll kick it over back to my colleagues here.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it a lot, brother. Glad you join us. And it's fun to have these discussions, like you said, close out the week, even though some of the shit is pretty heavy that we talk about. Tara, how about yourself, my friend? For Tara Buster, I don't have the Political Voices Network, but Tara's part of Political Voices Network. Her Tara Buster, unapologetically progressive liberal media.
That's right.
And a bit of a rabble rouser. So Tara, sell yourself, my friend.
Well, come and if you can, well, I know you can, subscribe to my Substack, please. That will help keep the liberal media going and growing, as I always say. And, there you go. I have a show on Tuesdays and on Friday nights. So, and tonight we'll have a show, and we will have guests sometimes. So tonight there's no guests. So, but we have a lot to talk about. And Jim is in the chat, I can see. So thank you, Jim and Susie, for being moderators. So I hope to see you later on this evening. And thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Appreciate it. Good to have you with us all the time. And next, my good friend, Steph Wilson with Freedom Over Fascism. Dr. Wilson, how can people find you and support your work, my friend?
Thank you, guys. So I'm at freedomoverfascism.us. And aside from my work with Nick on Mondays and Fridays on Chronic Illness and Anti-Fascist Book Club, I have a show on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 1, talking to people that can help us understand the context of what we're doing. So last week, I talked to William Finnegan, who is a geopolitical risk specialist, and he worked in the high levels in the Pentagon, and so that was a really great discussion about stability and risk, and where the United States is in the global pecking order. And on Tuesday, I'm going to have a woman, an Iranian woman. Her name is Rana Amanpour, like Christine Amanpour, but I don't think they're related, to talk about what's going on in Iran on the ground. So if you could come check out what I've done, if you would become a subscriber, that would be great. A paid subscriber is even better, so I can keep doing this. And also stay warm and dry and safe this weekend when it's gonna wallop a lot of the country. So
and
stay safe, everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks, Steph. And we're also starting to simulcast Freedom Over Fascism on Banner and Backbone and Sick of This Shit publications to help spread Steph's reach. That's part of what I like doing. So come support me at Sick of This Shit publications. That's my home for masculinity and chronic illness and community building. I'll keep that one short. Thanks for everyone who's supporting me over there. We've seen some really incredible growth and appreciate all the help continuing to build that system and community. But support Banner and Backbone. That's really where we're starting to build out a ton of tooling for the community. We have a new calendar system that's going to be coming out for centralized show locations, so people can find all of the great shows and contributors across various networks and affiliations and publications in a non-Substack location that you can subscribe to, and you can keep updated, and you can find what's new and what's available for all our creators for deconflicting, because there's a million voices for a million problems, and we want to help organize that. So keep an eye out for some cool updates for Broad Banner. That way, if you actually accidentally try and type in broadcast and you start doing Broad Banner, you might find us. It's going to be our global calendar system. Help us support building tools like that, and adding the folks to be able to increase the visibility for all our publications. So thanks everyone for being here with us. As always, I really appreciate y'all spending your time on Fridays coming with us and hanging out. We will be back next Friday for our closing discussion on Strongmen, as we do the final 2 chapters plus the conclusion afterwards, and just have a good discussion on that. So thanks everyone. We'll be back 12:30 Eastern Friday. I don't know what day in January it is,
Mhm.
but last Friday of January to close out Strongmen. Thanks everyone for being with us. Have a great day, and we'll see y'all again next week.
See ya.